Hello and welcome to We Got Issues, the only comic book show that knows the difference between Jon Stewart from The Daily Show and Jon Stewart from Green Lantern Comics. That's a Jon Stewart joke. I don't feel like no one ever makes that, but that's just me. Anyway, I'm Brian Compton, aka BComp, and joining me always is the Foggy Nelson to my Matt Murdock, Josh Marquith.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, are you watching the new Daredevil revival? Because if you are, spoiler alert, I don't know if I like this intro. I should be watching myself.
Well, that's true. I forgot about that. I was referring to the comic book Foggy, but whatever.
There we go. No, I'll take it. Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau. Swoosh. That makes me Ben Affleck. I'll take it.
There we go.
Yeah, I am watching the show actually. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the beginning kind of sucked and this, that, and the next thing, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a little try hard at the top with that one shot take. I just think it looked like wasn't shot very well.
I think it was funny. They just kind of got it out of the way. They know people are going to ask about it, and they know like it's going to go. So they're just like, let's just get it out in the first 30 minutes.
Dude, I think it was all about the first 30 minutes of that was about just remember that old show. Well, here, get it out of the way. Get rid of Deborah Ann Wall. Get rid of Foggy Nelson guy. You know, just okay, we're done. We're starting from square one. It's still the same universe, but forget all that crap. You know what I mean? Like it's time to move on.
Right. I'm liking it so far. I think it's really good.
The most recent episode I really, really enjoyed. I really did. And
I've watched it yet.
To see where it goes. Okay, well, I won't say anything then.
Hush.
No, Hush is a different. That's Batman.
That's coming back too.
Or Buffy. No, wait. Yeah, it's Hush 2 is coming back. That's all right. Well, anyway. Well, speaking of superhero TV, we are using this episode to get Invincible. And no, we are not referring to the Marky Mark movie. What are we talking about, Josh?
No, first of all, it's a good pull. The best thing about that movie, was the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode that made fun of that movie.
The gang gets invincible?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the
That's
green meanie.
So good. I love that. It's a good episode.
It was an amazing episode. It's one of my favorites. The trash can stuff. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, well, it's for our. It's for our. It's Always Sunny podcast.
Our Sunny podcast we'll be doing next.
Yeah. But so before we do get Invincible, I always wanted just because I've been watching the show and we'll talk about it though. They have like a thing where when somebody says his name or at first or something, that's when the title card comes out. So it'll be like, my name is, and then boom, Invincible, or hey, look, that's boom, Invincible. So now every time I have that in my head, so we'll just move on from that. But yeah, so before we get boom, Invincible, I think we have to do a little bit of our normal housekeeping. And Brian, I got to ask you, it's something that has come up all the time when we talk.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like your snacks?
How do I like my snacks? I like them mysterious and spooky with just a hint of adventure. Sadly, I can never find anything to satiate my appetite.
Oh, well, my friend, you are well in luck. Now, let me tell you about Duff and Shaw snacks. Whether it's giant gummy anacondas, Nessie's golden almond eggs, or their new green apple alien gummies, Duff and Shaw snacks and candy are curated for the most mysterious and undiscovered places on planet Earth. They're uncovering flavors that will give you stories to tell your grandchildren. Now go to duffandshaw.com/issues today and check out all of they've got and more. Now that's duffandshaw.com/issues, and you get the most legendary snacks in the world, and they can finally be yours.
Awesome. Please do check them out. It does help out the podcast. We appreciate it for everyone who does.
It does. Every little bit helps. And you know, honestly, they are great snacks too. It's a win-win. Let's just say that. Because the Nessie eggs are really good. Yeah, the Nessie eggs are great. I took them on a recent road trip. Like they're perfect road trip snacks too, because they're in that little, they come in these resealable packages too. So it's just perfect.
Man, where's my free pro? Did you get a free? You actually paid for them though.
I paid for some, yeah, but they were very generous, and they upped my order, which was great.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll get you some for Christmas. How about that?
There we go. There we go.
In December. I don't know why I said in December.
My birthday's coming up,
And
Josh,
I was about to say, yeah, your birthday is like at the end of this month.
Anyway, let's move on before we digress too much further.
Yeah, too much of these snacks. We kind of spent the last couple of episodes talking a lot about Marvel. Actually, we kind of clocked that ourselves, and really about the Red Hulk too. So we got a little bit red in the face on that one.
Turns out the fans didn't really care. I looked at the numbers like, shit, don't do that again.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I don't care.
I don't either.
People can listen. People don't want to. This is my podcast. I don't care. No,
that's
I'm
true.
kidding.
That is absolutely true. Please listen. Please.
Yeah, but please listen.
And leave us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, and give us some of your suggestions, like this one.
Yeah, actually, one of the cats on my swim team, this guy named Tom, he's like, I like your podcast. He's like, would you guys be able to do an episode on Invincible? And I was like, yeah, sure. For me, like I said, I've read some of the book, but I didn't ever get into the TV series. And it sounds like, Josh, you have. What is your thoughts on that real quick?
I really like the TV series. And once we talk about the book and everything too, I'll kind of go through like what's different and why it's actually a good watch too. Even if you've read the book, if you're a big fan of the book, it's not a 1-to-1 telling, which is great. Okay. So we'll break down the book first so I can tell more about the differences because I don't want to spoil our whole conversation
totally.
It too.
I'm just curious generally your general thoughts, if it lived up to it or not.
It's definitely, as an Invincible fan, it's definitely a good compendium to it.
Well, speaking of compendiums.
Yeah. I mean, and just like you said, we get the suggestion, and of course, us being us, we're not just doing the first trade. We're not just doing the second trade. We're not doing the third trade. We're doing or the ultimate edition, no, or the first issue or anything like that. We're doing the first compendium. So that's issues 1 through 47 that we went through.
0 through 40.
Excuse me. I should know my numbers better. Yeah.
Man. That was a slog, by the way.
It was, but it's a fun read, though. When I say
it's
a lot of issues.
It's a lot of issues. I think I'm like trying to pull it up right now. I'm looking at it, but I can't even get a page number here. But it's easily got to be like 1,000 or 1,000 pages or so, I'd say, right? Or around there.
Yeah, around that. Yeah, and it's the first 8 trades. It's like 1 through 8 on the trades too. So it's literally a third of
the series.
The whole series, because the series goes only to like 144.
Yeah, there's 3 of these compendiums. There's 1, 2, and 3. There is a pickup compendium that is like all the universe stuff that are like spin-offs, like Adam Eve and Rexplode and Guardian the Globe and all that. So there is a 4th compendium, but you don't need to read it. It's just more if you like the flavor. But for the actual Invincible Adventures itself, this is 1/3 of the entire series.
Right, and this is 1/3 of it, but it's also our part 1 of talking about Invincible. We're not going to do it like 1, 2, 3 right away, but we're going to come back to it, of course, and try to finish this as well. And we might have guests, come talk about it as well. Who knows?
I've seen friends who are really into it.
Yeah.
Actually, it was Blair Butler, former G4 host. She was really, really into the series. I'm sure she would love to. And I'm probably gonna reach out to maybe Hector Navarro or something like that wants to join us for an episode or something.
Name dropping. Sorry,
name dropping.
Brian, are your feet okay? Because you just dropped some heavy names right there. So just be careful.
I know. My back hurts. My back hurts from dropping all that.
And it wouldn't be our podcast, and Brian, it wouldn't be a production of yours if we didn't go back to a golden oldie or a tried and true or something. What do we got to do?
I'm lazy, and I believe that reinventing the wheel is dumb. So let's do something I used to do on my Nerdist shows, which is called to read the blurb on the book. So here we go. Do you want to take this one, or do you want it?
I've done the past couple ones. I'm going to let you do it.
Sounds good. Mark Grayson is just like everyone else his age. He's a senior at a normal American high school. He has a crappy part-time job after school and on weekends. He likes girls quite a bit, but doesn't understand them. He enjoys hanging out with his friends and sleeping late on Saturdays, at least until the good cartoons come on. The only difference between Mark and everyone else his age is that his father is the most powerful superhero on the planet. And as of late, he seems to be inheriting his father's powers. But that's only the beginning of Mark's problems. Ba-dum-bum-bum.
Ooh, very nice. That was a very good retelling. That's a teaser. Ooh. I'm teased.
Real quick though, I mean, like I always find like reading the blurb on the back is fun, but like give me loosey goosey, give me like the elevator pitch for this show.
The book started way back in 2003, I believe, in
January?
January 2003, and is this whole series, which is just not really know or just heard of this type of thing. It's entirely written by Robert Kirkman, and I would say 95% of it is done by the same artist, Ryan Otley.
Yeah, Ryan Otley and Corey Walker. We'll get into the specifics of
Yeah,
what happened there, but
I'm
yeah,
just,
it's Corey
just
Walker.
telling this.
Yeah,
this whole team, it's not like a normal team. It's a whole Bendis Bagley thing. So, but if you don't know who Robert Kirkman is, he's the guy who wrote Walking Dead, and he's big. He's a big indie Image guy, and like we said before, this book ran for about 144 issues before coming to an end in 2018. So that's 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of shocked me because like in my memory, the book like ended a lot sooner than that. I was like, well, 2018, that was like 5 years ago. And that's pretty crazy. For those of you who don't know, like this book is a mix of kind of like bright colored, like superheroics, hyper violence, and like young adult teenage angst. I kind of alluded to this, but like, what are your thoughts on this book in general? Like, did you read it when it came out, Josh? Did you read it in trade? What was your kind of like, what was your history with the book?
I first read it in trade when I was in college, and I actually I read it out of order in the first.
Okay.
I read.
Interesting.
I read the third trade first because I
wow.
I
know
what the
twist is.
Exactly. At the time, well, I think that's what made me want to read the rest of it, because at the time I thought it was just like another just a regular superhero. It's a Superman on an indie book type of thing, but I was completely like, okay, this is way different. I'm loving this. Let me start from the beginning and go as far as I can with the trades, because this was at around 2008. So I mean, it's kind of around the middle, not middle, but the earlier half of it. And I still didn't keep up with it. It just when trades came out, I tried to read them and everything like that. And then a few years ago, I did just the full reread again, through 144 nonstop. Nice. I think I was reading it. I was actually reading it when I came to visit Nerdist. That one of the one times too. When I was basically being babysat in the corner of Mike Shaw's. Like I was at his desk and I was just reading on my iPad. Yeah,
I just get a text from Mike. Is he just going to sit here all day? I'm like, yes, he's going to sit here all day and read the book. Don't worry. I
was just reading. I was just because I think it was there for the Justice League recording. Yeah, or something, or Mothership or something. I was there for. And I was just reading Invincible that whole time.
That's funny.
On my iPad. I was like, hey, I'm taking a day off from work. It's just fun. So
you can do whatever the hell you want, man.
I'm going to be the special brother in the corner that just reads, and you have to give him a treat every once in a while because he's quiet.
Here you go. Tickle some keys.
Yeah. Right. What about you? What was your history with this, and what are your general thoughts about this?
Yeah, I bought these issues. I have issues like 1 through like 70. So I was buying the issues. Like I was like, oh, here's a new superhero comic. Sure, it's from Image. I'll buy it. And it was back when I like it was just one of those things where I was buying everything, and at that time, like it was like kind of like my post-college, a lot of disposable income kind of like part of my life. So I was just buying all the books. That's why I have all the Walking Deads. It's why I have all of the Invincible, not all of Invincible, but the beginning of Invincible and stuff like that. So I was reading it when it came out. And I was, oh, it's fine. And then like the big twist, which spoiler, like at this point we're going to spoil, but the big twist happens like, oh shit's getting real in this book.
Yeah.
Overall though, I really liked it. I don't know why I specifically fell off the book around like I said, 60 or 70. If I have to be honest, my memory is Blair Butler started giving me the singles of them, and so I stopped buying it at the shop. And then I think for some reason she stopped getting the singles, and she just started getting the trades. And so I was like, well, screw it, I'll just take the trades from her. I don't need to buy the singles. Had I known that the value of those issues would have continued to appreciate it, I would have continued buying. Like, no joke. It's funny though, I'm actually gonna have to go through because I have a couple doubles of those in that mid run right there. I have doubles of those, and they're worth like a pretty penny. I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll just go flip them now. I don't need doubles.
Now, yeah. How popular
it's
the show
is.
It's
hot right now.
So how's that first issue though? How much is that first issue? You think it's probably a
It
lot, right?
varies. I mean, if it's in bad condition, like $700, but if it's like in good condition, it can
In
go
bad
up.
condition,
Yeah.
$700.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's like when I say
Wow.
bad, I don't mean like ruined. I just mean like, oh, it's clearly been read and crinked and all that. Like, I don't know what I'd have to look on eBay, but I know it sells for a pretty penny. Like in all those issues, because I checked it out. I think its print run was like 6,500. I want to say for that
Oh
first
wow.
issue. Yeah, I mean the only thing worse than that was The Walking Dead. Like Walking Dead #1 had a print run of like 2,500. So
Oh jeez.
yeah,
Goodness. So
and
again, that's also a pretty penny.
yeah, it is. And actually, this kind of leads into like what I want to kind of talk about, like the origins of where this book kind of came from. You know, it was basically back in like 2002. Image was like looking to restart its superhero line. At this point, like you have Image doing a lot of like indie books and stuff like that. You have like Powers. You have like G.I. Joe, ironically, was over there at the time. Spawn, Savage Dragon, stuff like that. But in terms of like and superhero books, like they were really light on that. They had Spawn and Savage Dragon. Wildstorm had already left for DC, so you have your Authority and your Wildstorm and all those cats, Wildcats, those are at DC at this point. So like I think it was Valentino, he basically starts reaching out to creators like, hey, what have you got? Can you give us anything? And so this led to a bunch of books being launched that just didn't really go anywhere. There's like Venture, Fire Breather, and I think there was like another two, like I think it was Noble Causes, maybe his Capes was another one I want to say. But anyway, so and one of the books was Invincible. They'd come to this kid, Kirkman, who was like 23, 24 at the time, who was doing a book called Battle Pope. I think it was doing it with Funkotron, I want to say. Yeah, he was
Battle
doing
Pope was
Battle Pope.
crazy.
Yeah. So he was doing that book. He was doing that with Tony Moore. And what ended up happening was like they did a mini series for Image, I think Super Patriot, but he had done that, I want to say, with Corey Walker, if I can recall. But anyway, long story short is like, yeah. And so they pitched out this character. His name was originally going to be Bulletproof. And Image was like, no, we're not calling him Bulletproof. That's stupid. So we're talking about that's perfect. And it's like, we have a character named Bulletproof Monk that's getting like turned into a possible TV series or an animated series or something like that with sci-fi. You got to change the name. And then it kind of just spawned Invincible. And they're like, well, that's what it's going to be.
Bulletproof Monk got turned into a movie. It was like with
That's maybe
Sean
what it
William
was.
Scott.
Yeah. That's what happened. Exactly. But they couldn't go with the character Bulletproof, although a character named Bulletproof does end up coming into the series later on.
And they tease it too in the early when he's getting his suit. Like the suit that he picks was gonna like was early original design.
Yeah.
Or that he art picks for him, and then he's like, yeah, there's doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's a little Easter egg. So that's a nice history about it.
Well, it's funny, kind of going back to what I was saying though. It's like I have those issues of Venture and Fire Breather, and I have Noble. So it's like all those issues aren't worth shit. And then like I don't mean to be a dick. Like they're fine. Like Fire Breather was done by Phil Hester. It's like it's a good book, and I think they did like an animated cartoon with it. It doesn't mean it's nothing. You know, I mean.
Wait,
so I was buying everything at the time.
I mean, every time I hear Fire Breather, it just reminds me of that Powerhouse 5000, the Twisted Fire Breather. But it's the song. It's like the song is Firestarter, but I'm just
Firestarter by Prodigy.
Yeah.
By Prodigy.
Prodigy. That's what it was.
There's a good cover of that song. I'll have to send you sometime. Well, it's ironic too. That Fire Breather was originally a pitch from Marvel, and it's supposed to be like the son of Fin Fang Foom. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about Invincible. Josh, tell us about it. Invincible, or whatever your thing is.
Yeah, let's talk about Invincible.
What's his personality and powers?
So Mark early on learns that his dad is actually the superhero in the universe Omni-Man, who's part of the Viltrumite race. So Mark is half. Can I say the right word? Half Viltrumite, and his powers are much like Superman. He has super speed, flight, strength, durability. What's different is he gets stronger the more adversity he has to go through. So like he goes in a big fight, he recovers from it, he gets stronger. Or it's kind of like what somebody said this, and it's totally right. They're like the Dragon Ball Z Saiyans, the like Goku and Vegeta and stuff like that. They go in every time they recover from a fight, here we go.
Right over my head, baby.
No, this is my old school Toonami. But every time they had fought, and then like they fought to the brink of death or something like that, and they recovered, they get much stronger. So that's what kind of Viltrumites are.
What does the stronger makes you, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, kind of thing.
Right. Type mostly, but like to the extreme where it's like they get faster, stronger. And also, what's different is his aging slows the longer he lives, and
Mhm.
the older he gets, the more stronger he gets as well. So, he could live to like thousands of years, and because Viltrumites, their genes are very dominant, he's pretty close to being like a full-blooded Viltrumite already,
Yes.
as just even if he's half. So I mean, that's mostly as far. So it's basically, it's a Superman Superboy clone with some twists here and there that
Yeah.
kind of give it a little bit more readability, I guess, or just like story wise.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of fashion it is that it's Superman's son. If Superman was evil, like, I mean, if Superman was evil and he had a son, and his son
Spoiler.
decided to be, well, we was already disappointed.
Yeah,
Like, at
no,
this
no,
point,
we're
this,
fine. Yeah, no,
yeah,
okay. I'm
well,
kidding.
yeah, like, yeah. I think that's a good, that's a good kind of way to present him. What about Mark himself? Is he obviously, like, when I read it, I got very much like, kind of Peter Parker still in high school vibes. Is that kind of like the vibe you were getting, I assume, too?
Yeah, I mean, he honestly, it's, I think what Robert Kirkman was going for was what Stan Lee was going for, which was every man person going through high school at the time. People reading it. So he was a nerd, like he's a comic book nerd. He wasn't popular, but he wasn't
Like, he wasn't,
unpopular.
he was like a
just
dork.
average.
Yeah.
He was the epitome of average. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, he read a bunch of comic books. His favorite comic book was Science Dog, and
That was a real pitch, by the way.
I think so. I think there is like a
No,
Science
it was.
Dog issue.
Kirkman was trying to pitch that as a real book.
Goodness.
He just adapted it into the book. But yeah, it was one of his first pitches. That when Image came to him, like, hey, can you give us something like Science Dog? They're like, nah, that's cool.
No, that's okay. He's like, what? I'm still gonna have it. But yeah, no, he's just right. Yeah, but never went through. But he's just he's the epitome of average. But then he all of a sudden he's been waiting for these superpowers. He knows he's gonna get them. So I love that scene, that panel where he's throwing away the trash and he just launches and he just goes, finally, like,
about time.
No, it was about time too. Yes. So,
like, that panel when he goes to throw the trash in the trash and just sends it into orbit. I love that comes back was several issues later.
Yeah.
Which it took me, I'm embarrassed to say this. It took me like a second read to like figure out what the hell, because like it comes back like 6 issues later, I want to say, or even 10 issues. I don't remember what it was, but all of a sudden you just get this one page where a piece of trash flies into London, and this dude's like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "What the hell?" And I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And then he does the joke again later on in the book with like when he throws his graduation cap in the air.
Graduation cap,
Same thing happens again, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And then it dawns on me, like, come on, no way. And I go back and I read like the first, I was like, you son of a bitch. And also, that was at me, because I'm like, how the hell did I miss that? I'm an idiot. You know what I mean?
And I loved how it was the same guy too. Yeah. And he just like this trash. He's like, he becomes a cultist about it. He's like, oh my God, this trash
from heaven, flying from the sky.
And then he also does that too. When you meet the Immortal, he's fighting this, I don't know, some crazy guy who's about to blow up. So he's just throw him up in orbit. So he throws him in orbit, and then later on you see Alan the alien come into Earth, and you see
it's the biplane guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Biplane man.
And you just see his just dead body.
There's a panel there, just like a skeleton floating block.
Yeah, it's just like, that's what happened.
There's a lot of good humor in this book with that. It's like a lot of it's like obvious jokes, but I'm fine with them. I like that kind of humor.
Like meta jokes, like the panel when he's talking to the comic book artist, and he's like, so what about doing the whole same panel a bunch of different times? Like, we'll do it for dramatic effect or for something else, and it saves time. And
then it's the same panel over and over and over again. It's very Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin Hobbes would do that kind of stuff too.
Mark wouldn't be Mark without his supporting cast and everything. So we got to talk about the Omni-Man in the room, Nolan Grayson.
Also, Easter egg for that, his original name was going to be like it was like Superman or something like that. And they're like, your image is like, no, you can't do that. That is way too close.
Sometimes it's good when the editors and stuff kind of step in on that, because that's not a great name.
Yeah, it was not. It was like literally Superman. I think it was I was just there. No, we're not. No. That's what I say. Listen to your editors, ladies and gentlemen.
Weird, right?
Anyway, yeah. Turns out.
But Omni-Man is the Superman of this universe. He's, like we said, he's a full-blooded Viltrumite.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a distant planet to help save the planet.
Save the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brian just did quotation marks just for all our
I
audio.
can see it through the podcast. They can see it through the audio. They can see it.
What am I thinking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
What am I thinking? And he has his, wife, Debbie Grayson, who's Mark's mom, obviously.
I loved her just like her blasé about so much of this. Like,
oh yes, yeah.
So eventually her character does grow, but I mean, I liked it at least in the initial arcs where like she's like, Dad's gonna be gone for like 6 months. We think he just disappeared in a flashlight. Okay, well, do you want pork chops or what?
Right.
She's so like this is just life,
This is just what happens. Like how many times has she been through this before? Type of thing.
Exactly.
And then Mark meets a fellow high schooler who's also a superhero, Adam Eve, who plays a huge part in the book and Mark's life. She's a fellow superhero who Mark teams up with, and she is kind of like Molecule Man and Star Sapphire a little bit.
Yeah,
mixed in.
Definitely Molecule Man vibes.
Yeah, just from the with subatomic rearranging stuff. She can just make anything inorganic, but without a mental. Or she has a mental blocker though, which eventually goes away. But she can make houses, and you just make anything that she can think of. But she has to really think of
cake with half the calories.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and she has to know that the molecule structure of it, the atomic structure of it. So it's kind of a mix of Molecule Man, but also I think what really, like you said, Jon Stewart. We mentioned Jon Stewart at the beginning, but it's kind of like how Jon Stewart is with his ring. He's the architect, so he knows all the little bits and pieces to make
where the construct.
So that's what she has to do. Yeah, and then Mark also has a girlfriend, Amber, who is kind of the everyman girlfriend. Like she's just kind of the not Girl Friday, that's the wrong word for it, but just she's kind of the personal life foil, I would say.
Well, I mean, it has to be there because you need to like how would this impact your real life, and you kind of ground the character. You know what I mean? I think it's important to have that perspective. Speaking of that kind of like ground perspective, what about his friend William?
Yeah, William, not Will, but
not
William.
Not Bill, Willie,
Bill, or Willie, or William, which I think that's also another kind of Easter egg or fourth wall break meta thing that Robert Kirkman did, because you don't hear him be called Rob or anything. I bet he's
or
like,
Bob.
People just call me Robert. I don't care.
Yeah, I think he's admitted to that he's like, that's me coming out there, the character.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm Robert.
When I was rereading it, I was like, this is completely him. I even texted you about it. Like, this is him putting his frustrations on the page. And then just people like, okay, whatever, dude. It's like, chill out.
It's like, all right, it's not a big deal. People call me BComp, but I don't care.
Yeah.
My name is as short as it can be.
I mean, I've told you this before though too. You can tell at what moment of your life somebody's met you is when what they call you.
That's true. That's absolutely
Andrew,
true.
like your oldest friend calls you Paul, which is your name.
Yep.
And then I call you Brian.
Yep.
Which is also your name. And then everybody post G4 calls you BComp.
Well, there was also a portion when I worked as a bartender at Islands and people call me BC. So like,
there you go. Goodness.
And some people call me Compton. I'm like, all right, that's cool too, man. I don't care.
People call me Josh. That's pretty much it. So I'm okay with it. It's pretty much it. I'm okay with that though. And speaking of weird names, weird names. I don't know. That's not a good transition. I'm just gonna keep going with it.
Go with it.
We have his government liaison who worked with Omni-Man most of the time and then started working with Mark is Cecil, and he's kind of like the Nick Fury, the what's the best way to say it? He's the government guy, like the
government guy. He's the Phil Coulson or the Nick Fury or the Peter Gyrick, or why are they all Marvel characters that have this?
I know. So let's say who would be
Valerie
on the
Cooper? Damn it, still government.
Still Marvel. Who would be the DC equivalent? Would you think?
Waller, maybe.
That, huh? Maybe Waller. Yeah, he's more like Waller. I say he's very Waller-ish.
Less openly sinister than Waller.
No, he's
openly sinister.
He still has a little bit more of a moral high ground than
he does.
Than Waller. But
I mean, it's funny you should mention. I was just watching Justice League Unlimited because my kid's into it right now, and it's the one where Waller, Waller and the DC or the Justice League go at it, And there's a great scene where like Batman, like, oh, I can't believe Waller would do this. Like, do you blame me? Like, he's pissed at her about, do you blame her? He's like, we are a bunch of guys who could take over the world, and we have a laser cannon above them. Yes, of course they're going to be freaked out. I think the self-awareness that Batman had right there, I loved.
Oh, totally. And I loved when he breaks into her house and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
he just hands her a towel. He's like, we need to talk. And that was it. And then, or when her introduction too, where she's just like, don't know where you're stepping, rich boy. And he's
Rich boy. And he's like, whoa. Anyway,
no,
we
I
really
could talk
digressed.
about that show so much. It's so long.
Oh, Justice League Unlimited is phenomenal.
We might even just do it. I don't care. I could do.
We'll do a season 1, season 2, season 3. How about that?
Please. I've watched this so many times.
I want to say when we were like, I didn't have time to read the comic, dude. We'll do a filler episode, or
we'll do that.
It'll be when we eventually get a Patreon. We'll do those Patreon episodes. How about that?
There we go. That'd be fun. But yeah.
Speaking of teams,
speaking of teams, Cecil is also in charge of the Guardians of the Globe, which is the Justice League.
It's just an analog,
pretty much, yeah, and the Teen Team. Which
Titans.
is the Teen Titans, basically,
yes.
which
is where Adam, Eve, and like Rexplode and Robot are over at.
Robot and Duplicate and Monster Girl and all those people.
What I love though is the Guardians of the Globe is like you have Omni-Man, who's essentially your Superman analog, and then you have the Immortal, who's also your Superman analog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So which is fun.
Omni-Man is just like, I'm not really a team player, which he really isn't a team player.
He is not a team player. We briefly touched on this earlier, but the creative team for the book, everyone knows Robert Kirkman. Like I said, if you don't, his other big book was The Walking Dead. He's done other books over, like I said, Image, like Tech Jacket, Super Patriot. He would do some sporadic work over at Marvel, like Ultimate X-Men and Marvel Team Up. But he's also maintained that he prefers doing indie and creator-owned books, just because of less oversight and kind of own everything. Create an entire universe, as he's done with both The Walking Dead and Invincible. But we're noting Marvel Team Up because that will come up later on.
Yeah, and he has been just the torchbearer for indie, like even just Image Comics himself. Like he's kind of he's the reason why they had such a resurgence.
He is the only of the original 7 that left Marvel to form Image. He's the only one who's on I don't want to say like part of the team that was not one of the original 7, like one of the CEOs or CEOs or something like that. Like I think he's a big stakeholder for Image Comics right now.
And my younger brother says I look like him a lot. Like whenever he sees me, he's like, "Hey, so you got a new issue of Walking Dead coming out?"
Me, you, and Nate ran into him at Long Beach Con. He happened to be walking by, and I think Nate was just like, dude, he's like, Josh, what are you doing over there? I'm like son of a bitch.
Yeah. You see, it's such a funny running joke. I love it. It's so, funny. It's only because I'm not saying Robert Kirkman looks bad or anything like that. It's just he's a guy with hair and a beard. That's all. That's what it is.
That's all it is.
That's why they make fun of it. It's more of just him looking like me than him looking bad or anything. That's just like, that's what the annoyance is.
That's funny. But we did kind of briefly mention the art team. Corey Walker was the initial artist for the book. He's a co-creator along with Robert Kirkman. Tony Moore and, like I said, Kirkman had found him on the Wizard art boards, actually. The magazine, you remember Wizard magazine? Remember when that was the thing? Yeah. They had found him.
Wizard all the time.
Oh, dude, the other day, it was crazy. I was driving through the Target parking lot, and some guy was standing there talking to some girl next to a car, and he had a Wizard magazine in his hand. I'm like, dude, that magazine went defunct 10 years ago, if not more. I was like, why does that dude have a Wizard magazine? I almost pulled the car over to I was like, I couldn't. So my wife was like, you're a crazy person if you do that. But I was like, that's cool,
It's cool. But also, how did you get that? Like, what were they doing? If it was in the Target parking lot, it seems like it was like a Craigslist deal or something they can offer up.
To be fair, I did just back order an old issue because I needed to read an interview with Dan Jurgens. So maybe it was something like that. I was like, I need this issue with Dan Jurgens because it's an interview about an essay I'm writing. But anyway, he found him over on the weird Wizard forums before it moved over to Pencil Jack. He's really known for his kind of clean, thin line work. But he also was known for missing his deadlines a little bit, which almost led to the book getting canceled. Like I said, he drew 1 through 7 before he was replaced by Ryan Otley, who originally was brought on the book to just do a fill-in issue. But they're like, hey, this cat can turn this shit out. Do you mind? He's like, dude, Corey Walker's like, that's fine, please. I cannot handle the stress of a monthly book. And so Ryan Otley took over. Now, Walker would stay still involved with the book. He would help with character designs, covers. He would also draw the last final arc of the book, or the final two arcs of the book. So he was very much still involved in the process. As we mentioned, with Ryan Ottley, like I said, the book was on the verge of cancellation because like Walker was literally doing, I think in the span of a year, he got 7 issues out. By the end, it was like one every like 2 months. No, it's not good. And like literally Kirkman's like, yeah, the book was on the verge of like, well, this is going to go away. Luckily, the dude was a workhorse and immediately got him right on a once a month. It was that, along with them getting consistent, that Wizard magazine, speaking of Wizard, did a kind of like a book of the month, like, hey, you're not reading this book, you need to read this book. And sales started to pick right back up, and finally nice. It just kept going and going and going from there. So yeah, like that's kind of a little bit of, I will say the difference between Ottley and Ryan, like I said, or Walker rather, I think Walker's lines are very thin and clean. Yeah. I think Ottley initially is it's almost hard for me to tell the difference between the two of them initially. As Ottley started drawing the book and became more comfortable in his art style, you definitely see the difference. Like he gets more detailed, like a lot more nuance in his art. Mm-hmm. But I think if you were looking at issue, like I think it's like 7 to 8, it's like, to me, like if you just look at the surface, there really isn't much of a difference.
No, I was going to say too, they're very close to each other, which is great. I mean, it's a great transition, but like you said, he definitely gets into it. He kind of lets his wings span a little bit more towards, later issues and things like that with, just the different character designs and, like Pterosaur or what? Yeah. Pterosaur, that's not the right word, but it's just the different kaiju and different monsters that come up and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, you look at an issue like 135 compared to an issue like 10, and it almost looks like, and it's, even though it's the same artist, it's almost like two different artists. So like he found his voice, or his chops, if you want to call it that.
And it wasn't Pterosaur, it's actually Dinosaurus. Excuse me, I don't know why I got there, but Dinosaurus he's a big character towards. I think it's going to be in the next compendium, but he becomes a big character in that in Invincibles.
Nice.
Growth and so but yeah Ryan is comic booky in a good way. Sometimes it can be a little, other people can do a little bit too comic booky, if that makes sense. Like in a way, he's in the realm for me of like McGinnis, where it's like comic booky but detailed and in a good way.
I like the description.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
I'm joking.
I mean, it's hard for me to critique artists. Excuse me. It's hard for me to critique artists just because, like, I can't draw. I don't have I hate to say it, but it's that thing of like, how do you define art? It's like, I don't know what good art is, but I know it when I see it. It's kind of like that. Unfortunately, like, I'm really bad ones. Like, unless it's a very pronounced style, unfortunately I have to reference another style. Like you said, referencing Ed McGuinness or something. That's hard for me to like explain why it works. I'm just not an artist, and I mean that as just a layperson. Like, I like good art, but I couldn't tell you like, like, this is a manga style, it's Joe Madureira, so it's manga, or this is Brian Hitch, and it's more blockbuster style. But
I think I just kind of see it as like watching a cinematographer or a director in a movie. Like they have different styles that you see on the page, and you can like it, you can not like it. That's just how it is. But yeah. Let's just get into the books. Let's get into what we discussed, the compendium, and just, again, we're going to go through these issues and we're going to hit some of the highlights and everything because there's a lot that goes into these 47 issues that we would have to have a two-parter for part 1, which was like a part 1A, part 1B.
So we're going to break it up by the trades specifically, which I love that all of the trades are named after TV shows. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. So like the first trade is called Family Matters, and it covers issues 1 through 4. And this first trade is kind of very simple. It's like you meet a kid, he finally gets his superpowers, and it's nothing really outside of it's a modern take on the sort of but the Spider-Man kind of like mythology, where it's like kid gets powers, learns how to use them, and that's kind of big. There's a plot involving a teacher putting bombs on people, and he has to stop it, and that's really all that happens. You meet some of the cast of characters. I mean, am I missing anything really?
No. That's really it. I mean, what's funny is it's called Family Matters, and his high school is Reginald V. Johnson
Yeah.
High School, and
I love
the
that.
principal looks like him, and
Originally, yeah.
in the show, in the cartoon, he's voiced by Reginald V.
Are
Johnson.
you
It's
serious?
so good. Yeah, Reginald V. Johnson, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's
I
so
just watched Die Hard the other day, so that's great.
oh good. That's amazing. And it's a very good introductory one. It's gives you who's who, what's going on in this world, and it's a good first episode, really. Like if you think about it,
Episode or issue or arc?
No, I'm just saying it's like a good first episode of a TV show. Give you
okay.
It's a good pilot. It's a good pilot. It gives you everything, and then the next trade, 8 is enough, ups it everything else. Like it's he keeps upping the stakes. Well, we meet Alan the alien, who is
issues 5 through 8 for
is 5 through 8. So this is which funny, 5 through 8, and it's 8 is enough.
There you got it.
Yeah, Alan the alien. He's like a planet evaluator. And in the history of Invincible, I guess he's fought Omni-Man every 3 years, but
yeah, because he keeps coming to
really,
Earth.
Earth, Urath, and then they never find out why he comes. He just comes every 3 years, and then Mark is just like, wait, we just talk about this, and he's like,
yeah, his dad just beats the shit out of him. He's like, hey, what's the deal? Why are you coming here? I'm here to just evaluate y'all. Like,
right,
dad didn't figure that out.
Right, it's like, wait, I have to get you ready. Make sure you're ready, because Urath, and he's like, no, this is Earth. Oh,
I got the wrong planet.
Yeah. So, peace out. Don't tell anybody that. But I'll be okay.
I love that the wife, when Mark reveals that to his mom and his dad, the wife is like, "You didn't get that, honey."
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's not. Oh shit, he did better than me.
Oh yeah, and what's good too is throughout this whole thing, it's Omni-Man is training Mark. Like he's like, hey, he tells him to go fight Alan Alien because he's like, I got this to do. This is a good training exercise for you. Like I could do. He's like, well, how am I gonna breathe in space? Like I can hold my breath for like 2 weeks. So you can do okay for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So it's just learning his powers and everything too. And you kind of see the shift as well of Omni-Man's, just his presence and just how he's talking too is just more instructive and more not really dad. It seems like you're seeing kind of this foreshadowing kind of set into place and everything. I think also this is the first time of the Flaxen invasion, which is these aliens that come from a different dimension, they age rapidly, and then Omni-Man fights and he gets. This is that part that you were talking about with Debbie's nonchalantness. Right? He gets sucked into the dimension, and he's just Mark comes home. He's like, Dad is in another dimension. He's like, pork chops, and he's just like, what? He's like, this is just a Tuesday. We know he'll come back, and then he comes back like a little bit later, and he's just like, I'm gonna need a shower. Yeah,
full beard.
Their whole time he's like, look, I was there for I don't know a couple weeks, and we did this whole revolution, and now I'm back. And just like, okay, so take a shower, go take a shave, and we'll have dinner ready for you. And he's just like he came back home from a hard day of work.
What's interesting about this is where you first kind of, like you just kind of alluded to, like, where you start to see a shift in Omni-Man, but this is also where you see the first real big shift in character for him. Up to this point, we think it's just a standard, like, superhero. My dad's a superhero. I'm going to learn the ropes and that shit. Something else is going on.
Right. And you get the introduction of the Guardians of the Globe. And
with the Justice League.
Yeah, right. It's almost like 1-for-1 almost.
It is literally a 1-for-1. It's like Darkwing and Waterman and, Warrior Woman.
A big fish like Atlantean. Yeah. And you get little, like, a page each to introduce them, and they all get called into this secret meeting, and then all of a sudden they get killed. They get ambushed and killed. And then that very last panel is just Omni-Man with all the blood on him, just looking like, and it was just, that was the big oh shit moment.
What? You're like, wait a minute, Dad is not a nice guy.
What? And also at this time too, Mark goes into college. It's like, they call it like upstate college or something, just general college.
Yeah, I love that. And like college, man.
Just college, insert college name here.
It's literally just call it's upstate college or things what they called it. Yeah,
and he is just visiting to see if they wants to go there. And this is also just the foreshadowing of D.A. Sinclair, who becomes a bigger part in the, I think 2 more books down the road, or excuse me, trades down the road. But this is a big introduction to D.A. Sinclair and his Reaniman. So it's very short.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say, there is one thing I really did like about that. There's a little bit of a crossover with Marvel Comics. If I don't know if you caught that. What's that? Not the roommate's name, but what the hell? I'm sorry. What's his name?
Rick?
One of the what's that?
Was it Rick?
Yeah, was it Rick Sheridan or whatever?
I think so. Yeah, he's the guy. Excuse me. Who shows him all the ropes and everything.
Yeah, he's always like really tired and trying to fall asleep or whatever. There's a character in Marvel Comics called Sleepwalker who falls asleep and when he comes out, anyway, his name is Rick Sheridan. It's the same. It's literally, I was like, oh, that's cute. And I think Kirkman actually did I want to say like a relaunch of that, but it was like canceled almost like right off the bat or whatever.
I had one issue of Sleepwalker. It was the issue where the cover could be the mask.
The mask. Yeah.
And then he's fighting the 8-ball guy. That's all I remember from it.
Yeah, I have that issue as well somewhere. And I think it's not the only Marvel crossover in terms of like, just Marvel Easter egg, rather not crossover, but Easter egg. I believe there's another character that's, I think, Darkhawk, or at least Darkhawk's name, like Chris Powell, I think. And I think that was originally a Darkhawk from over at Marvel.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Image characters too, so they're all in this Image universe.
Yeah, but I mean, like they're in the Image universe, but I'm just saying it's like he purposely named them after Marvel characters and like kind of put a little bit of their personality. It was never official, like, oh, it's a Marvel crossover, but it's him just doing like little Easter eggs. Anyway, yes, he was at college.
Yeah, he was at college, but also, I mean, it just foreshadows D.A. Sinclair, which becomes bigger later on, and then. Yeah. The next trade is Perfect Strangers, with
issues 9 through 13.
9 through 13, excuse me. And then this is where we get introduced to the new Guardians of the Globe, because all of the other ones are dead. Yeah. And it was...
But one...
Yes, oh yeah. But it's kind of in his name. What was cool about the Guardians of the Globe, like the funerals, like I mentioned, that you could see all the different Image characters in there.
Yeah,
so
Savage
Dragon. It was like, what's his name? Silverhawk? It might be Darkhawk.
Yeah, it might be.
Right.
Well, you're thinking of Shadowhawk.
Shadowhawk. That's what I'm thinking of.
Shadowhawk is Image, but Darkhawk is a Marvel character.
Yeah.
But I think you see like a bunch. I don't want to say Spawn was in that, but like I do remember.
Super Patriot was.
Yeah, Super Patriot. Yeah.
But so that was cool little like, oh hey, I know those. I kind of know those people and everything. Yeah. But we also get the new Guardians of the Globe, which was the teen team. Mm-hmm. Most of those members get jumped up, and then they get some auditions as well, but they're led by Robot, which is that a robot or is it something else? Adam Eve, Explode, Monster Girl, Duplicate, and they are just they have the auditions and stuff, and Mark still doesn't want to be part of the team because his dad doesn't let him. Because he's like you can do much more training with me than you can with them, which is like again he's kind of getting him started on that, primed for it. Yeah. And as they're training too, all of a sudden the Immortal is brought back by these 2 villains called the Mauler twins, which I really like their dynamic.
Yeah, real quick, the Mauler twins, in case you don't know, are these. One of them is a clone, and one of them is the original copy. But neither of them knows who the original one is in the clone. So they're always bickering with one another about who's the original and who's not. And it's just a great recurring theme throughout the book. So it just keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up.
And I just love it. Yeah, and the cloning process, their memories are to that moment. So it's constant. But they're like super strong, but they're also very, very smart. And
so they bring back
I like
a
that kind of
person.
Yeah, a certain person named the Immortal.
Yes.
And the Immortal right away was like, he knows what happened. He goes right after Omni with that. Omni-Man kills him again pretty almost easily. But this time in front of Mark.
Yeah.
So this is the moment too where Omni-Man kind of gives him the actual history of the Viltrumites, because before Nolan has told Mark, like, look, we are a beneficial race. We go out to planet to help protect them and to get them
ready to join
the safety of the needs.
Yeah.
ready to just be prosperous and
Yes.
to save, do what we can. But in actuality, it's getting them ready to be taken over by the Viltrumite Empire.
They're going to be squeezed dry, and when they're done, thrown away.
Yes, and just if you are against them, you're dead. And there's no, and they would at first the Viltrum was not utopia at first. It was survival of the fittest, which was everybody just basically fought until the strongest people survived, and then from there they thought, why we're so good, why can't everybody else be so good? So let's spread the wealth of how we are. It's a fascist. It's fascism. It's what it is. It's what they're the Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z, but with a little bit of Nazi sprinkled in there, which is
really, it's funny because with as they've adapted a lot more of like the Kryptonian kind of history in DC Comics, there's a little bit of similarities there with the Kryptonians. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Jor-El was a really good guy and was trying to save his planet, but Kryptonians by and large are kind of assholes, and there's a little bit of that there. It's not one to one. Yeah, it's not a 1-to-1, but it's pretty damn close. I will say that this leads to like one of the kind of the things I got memed on the show, which it's a moment in the comic, but I feel like the show hit it harder than the book did. Obviously this is Omni-Man's like, hey, join me, Darth Vader style, and we can rule the galaxy's father and son. And Mark's like, yeah, piss off. Like, what about this planet? What about everything? And he's like, dude, we live so long. This is gonna be not even a memory to us. What about mom? Like, does mom, like, what does she count? Like, dude, she was like a pet to me. And you're just like, damn.
And
it's funny because in the book, it's kind of glazed over. It's just like a cute line. But I think that, like I said, from what I could see of all the memes that kind of came out of it, that they hit it hard on the show enough that it got memed pretty well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to chat about this more when we get to the TV show, but this is part of the one of the times that they expand more and kind of, it seems like a redo that Kirkman could do. So, but this whole fight too is much longer in the show as well, which more brutal.
This fight is brutal. This fight is brutal in the comics, and it has impact. The other thing that's interesting is like how, Omni-Man is like, even after everything, he beats the shit out of his son, he takes off. He's like, all right, I don't care. And then there's still tears. He did feel it, but he wasn't going to admit to it. You know what I mean?
That's because it's completely against his heritage and how he is and everything. That's totally against his whole world, basically, to himself.
Yeah. The other brutality with it was the fact that the entire conversation was like basically recorded and eventually, and this is, I think it's in the next arc, but it's eventually aired, so everyone knows that Omni-Man was a piece of shit, and his wife gets to hear the whole thing, how she was nothing.
The whole
to
thing
him.
at home.
And it's great because like we had kind of talked about this earlier. Like, she starts off as just this lovey-dovey wife, and she does have an arc, and this plays into her just going into a mass depression. Which, do you blame her? Do you blame her?
Absolutely, she gets a drinking problem, and it's just. They at the end of this trade, it shows them going home and just the immediate aftermath of it, and it's like, again, like their whole world was disappeared, and now Mark is going to be working for the government, but they're coming into a ghost house. They barely talk to each other, and it's just trying to move on.
Well, and this is also where the book, like steps out of the shadow of Spider-Man or Superman or whatever. It's like, this is now where it's charting its own course. Because up to this point, it's like, oh, it's a hunky-dory superhero story. We've seen this before. It's a new take on it, being Superman's son, essentially. But this is where it's like, you're doing something different. You're doing something new. All of the brutality, all of the horrible emotional brutality. And it's nice to see, okay. And that's where I'm like, now what's going to happen next? And that kind of leads into the next arc, which I believe is Head of the Class, issues 14 through 19.
Yeah. It's more the fallout from it, both in the superhero community and the regular community, and then the Flaxstones come back, and they have like this wristband or something like that, and also you're getting the foreshadowing and the introduction of Angst from Levy, who becomes a huge huge bad guy. And
Yes.
Mark graduates from high school, and then also we go to Mars, bitches, Red Rocks, yay yay,
Mars,
which is a whole
which that
the whole thing
introduces
with
the Martian.
the Martians and the celopods, or the little. It's like you get Starro and the Martian, the green Martians all in one storyline, basically.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed just like a kind of a return to all right, let's get back to basics. That's the thing. I guess a lot of people do criticize the book for, like, it's like it does a big thing and then it kind of brings it back, and then it does a big thing and then kind of brings it back. I was fine with that. I was like, again, we still want to be involved with, like, how do I relate to this person as a reader? You want to have, some kind of like connection, and I think that book is really good about like pushing it and then kind of bringing it back to like something we can relate to.
Totally, and also you get to see Mark have his new job, which is basically working for Cecil, because they had helped him out with the recovery and hospitalization and all that stuff. So he's like paying that back, and then just is normal picking up from what his dad did.
Well, that's the thing. I think that was a really good moment where Cecil's like, dude, I'm pretty smart, and he pulled the rug over my eyes too. I feel really bad about that. We're going to make sure that you and your mom are taken care of, because he did do a lot of good things, and it would be really bad if like some of that stuff kind of got out there. You know what I mean? I like that. Like Cecil was like at least willing to admit, like, yeah, hey, it's cool. We're going to keep you taken care of. Yeah, he got us all. And like, seems like you're on board. We heard what you were saying to him. You weren't going to give in. The whole like, basically you did the Luke Skywalker jump off the side into the Cloud City thing. We're cool with you, buddy. It's cool. Although Immortal, on the other hand, does not agree with that.
No. I mean, the quick discussion about the Immortal, which was great about the Immortal. He's like Vic Savage, but he has Superman powers, but he was also Abraham Lincoln. And he looks like Abraham Lincoln as a superhero.
Mutton chops
and everything. So I just wanted to mention that. If you haven't read it, he's superhero Abraham Lincoln, which is amazing. And with him working with Cecil, though, that's the new foil too. Like, it's Mark can't have a moment of peace, really, because Cecil's in his ear, like, hey, this is happening. Hey, I got you to stop this. Like, and then that kind of brings some tension and turmoil in his relationship with Amber.
Yeah, because she's like, where are you going? My dad just died, so I'm going to take a vacation for a little bit, which she gets. But ultimately, he's like, yo, I've been on Mars for 2 weeks now. How do you explain that to her without revealing who you are and what you do? You know what I mean?
Without calling, too. Two weeks without calling or anything. And then I like how he has to be the incognito for the Mars mission as well, because they can't have any like superhero thing. And then he just pops out a little bit. And then, I mean, that was it for that one too. So it was like Mars was the big part of it. And then Angstrom Levy, though, too. You had to really pay attention to what he's doing.
And that's one thing I will say Kirkman's really good about. He's really good about knowing, like, hey, I'm planting seeds right now. I'm going to plant a seed right now that I'm going to pay off 20 issues later. He's good about knowing where this is going to go. And I think that's kind of like it's one of the things the book does really well. When you have one writer on a book all the way from 1 to 144, it's like you can plant those seeds and pay them off whenever you choose. And some of them don't. Like, there's a lot of times I've read, like, I guess I haven't finished it, but like, there's a lot of plot threads he set up and then he never resolves. But overall, he's really good. Again, like, whether it's Biplane Man being like a floating corpse in the air, or the trash flowing through he's really good about just setting up like, hey, this one character, we're just going to introduce a quick moment, and we'll see him again in 20 issues, or we'll see him again in 15 or whatever. And I really do appreciate, like, that continuity of, for lack of a better word, continuity of care, of the character. You know what I mean?
It's a great throw line.
Yeah. Which anyway, that brings us to the next arc, issues 20 through 24 and issue 0, The Facts of Life.
The Facts of Life. Yeah. The Facts of Life. Yeah. So he is the Mark in the college years.
Yeah. Which is crazy to me. It's like, I know it's only been like, it's 2 years in terms of comics, like 24 issues, but in my memory of the book, I thought he was in high school so much longer. You know what I mean? Like,
he kind of, when you think about it, but he doesn't really. He's barely in high school.
Yeah. Well, I guess, like, if you think about it, the original Spider-Man was like that too. From what I recall, like, he gets out of there pretty quickly. You're like, damn, I thought which is why I feel like Marvel's always going back to like, gotta mind those high school years, gotta mind the high school years, but anyway. Yes, so there's a big reveal that happens, which is what issue 0 is in this book, which is he tells Amber the truth.
Yeah, and kind of gives her the rundown of everything that's happened until then. It's like the recap episode of it.
Yeah, it's a really good way to like, oh, here's everything that's happened up to this point, but it through the lens of like, hey, so I'm going to tell you how my life went. And then she's like, cool, I'm on board. I get to date a superhero. Can you teach me how to fly?
Right.
Can you fly around with me, rather?
Yeah, which William had already done that a couple times too, which is funny.
Which I will say that is the one thing that really dates this book is whenever like he's carrying William, like, this is so awesome. He's like, this is so gay. And like, it's not just once, it's like 2 or 3 times that he's like, this is so gay. I'm like, oh yeah, that was the 2000s for us, man, when that was just not even a slur. It was just a thing we said. God, man, why did we do that?
And it's funny too, because in the TV show, he is actually gay.
Wait, really? Because in the book, he dates Adam Eve, right? Like, because
Adam Eve, he's straight in the book. He's straight in the book, but just in the show, he's gay from day one.
That's cool. Yeah, because like in the book, he's dating Adam Eve after she breaks up with Rexplode because he was cheating on her with Duplicate, who ends up cheating on him with Immortal, which is again
the same way. They find out the same way too.
The same exact way. That's what I'm saying. It's that super shenanigans, like X-Men drama. You love to see it. All that. That's cool. That's cool. But that was the one thing. And when I was reading the book, I'm like, oh God, glad you're not cleaning that up. I'm glad we know it's there, and you're not gonna, you're not trying to like censor yourself. And you're like, that was what we said. Sorry about that. I'll say it's a product of its time.
Mm-hmm. No, totally, but then going with the storyline though, to the reason why Mark reveals to Amber because there's a incident at the college where D.A. Sinclair and the Reaniman come up again.
Yeah, and
he has to do some superheroing, and he has to leave her, and she feels like he ran off, and so that the whole Peter Parker thing too. It's just
I was calling the cops. I wasn't in a phone booth changing into my outfit.
Right. I was getting somebody, and then something happened to me.
It's the Clark Kent thing. It's literally the Clark Kent, the Lois Lane thing every single time.
And also in this one, we see the evolution of Angstrom Levy, and he gets to help with the Mahler twins. Now, at this moment as well, we really see what Angstrom Levy can do, and what one version of him can open different portals to the multiverse and move through them. And so what he's doing is he's getting all of himself into one area, and he's wanting to combine all the collective knowledge of all the Angstrom Levies, all
the memories and thoughts and all that, put it all into one guy, right?
And that's what the Mahler twins can do, because that's what they do when they make clones and everything. So that goes awry, of course, because you do. Invincible wants to help, or you have Invincible areas that the Mahler twins are doing something, so he goes to attack them because they are always bad guys, and that it makes a big accident and explosion. And as far as we know, as far as Invincible knows, Angstrom Levy is dead, and oopsie daisy. And then, of course, because Invincible reveals himself to Amber, they become closer, and they become closer. And at that moment, we take a cut to Alan and Alien and have a mini story.
Give them a moment alone.
And let's talk about Alan and Alien. And what's great about this little mini story within the issue is we see the full introduction of the coalition of planets and who his boss is, and then you see kind of his life, and he has a girlfriend as well, and he also gets involved a little bit with the Viltrumites.
It's funny. I think that's the issue, because up to this point in the book, everything is done through dialogue. Everything is, there's a couple times, like you said, when Nolan or Omni-Man is like telling Mark about the past, and it's like showing flashbacks to like the Viltrumites like taking over planets, but it's still with his dialogue over like, then we went to this planet, then we went to that planet. But up to that point, nothing had ever been like really captioned. It wasn't like, it's like, even like, when they do an establishing shot, it's like, the Pentagon, but it's the Pentagon is written on a sign in the front yard or whatever, the Pentagon. Yeah. This is like the first time and they were kind of doing an homage, if I want to recall, to like a Stan Lee issue, like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, like, come along, faithful reader, as
Good.
we blah blah blah, true believers. It's like, but then after that issue, I do notice that they start kind of actually just start captioning like, yeah. Meanwhile, over here, like he starts, yeah. Up to that point, though, and I think it's one of the reasons why I think the book reads really fast up to that point. Everything is explained through exposition and dialogue, and then all of a sudden at that point, I don't know if Kirkman was like, dude, I've got other things going on. Walking Dead's taking off. I don't have time to write the dialogue here. We're just going to caption it out right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Well, I also think Invincible's world expands as well.
That's true.
The coalition of planets and the Alan. And this is the first time you see kind of current Viltrumites other than Nolan as well, because you saw them in the flashbacks, but you see just how brutal and how crazy they are, because they absolutely demolish Alan.
Oh yeah.
And you think that's it for him. But
alas, we will see him again.
We shall see him, or that the end of like the Marvel movies, Alan the Alien will return in.
Yeah. Thunderbolts asterisk.
The Wheaties box. Next book is issues 25 through 30. It's A Different World, which is aptly named because Mark gets a little invite from a person that he never thought he would ever see, which is Science Dog in the flesh. Science Dog in the flesh.
Yes, his superhero character that he loves.
His superhero character that he loves. But I love how when that happens, he doesn't go, "Oh my God, it's Science Dog." He's like, "Who are you? What are you?" Yeah, he's like, "No, like you are a fictional character. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
and that turns out to be a Thoraxin, which is this bug-like kind of looking dude in a suit, because he thought this was the best way to introduce himself, because their sight is not really great, but it's like he chose the wrong thing. Like, so a dog that looks like
looks like Tom Strong as a dog.
Yeah, exactly. So he tells Mark, "Look, we are in dire, or our planet's about to go. We're in dire need of your help. We're about to be extinct. Please, can you come with me to my planet and help save us?" And Cecil's against this. He's like, "No, you can't do that. We have stuff here.
I'm not going to let you do it." Like,
and
too
Mark's
bad. I don't care.
"Look, this is right and wrong. This is right. I need to go." So it's like, how long does it take to get to the planet? It's like 6 days. 6 days or 6 weeks? 6 something.
6 days. I think it was 6 days. Because he was bored. I think it's 6 days, and he's like, I should have brought a book.
Right, and he's just sitting there. That would be horrible. But when he gets to the planet, he sees their high ruler, emperor, and his Omni-Man. It is Nolan.
Hello, Daddy.
It's hello, Daddy. And that was a big surprise. And at first, you think he's going to start fighting him, but he gives him a hug, which is a nice moment. And with that, you get introduced to the Thoraxin planet, which is it's a cool kind of way concept. That they have the planet. Yeah, concept with it, just how they age super rapidly.
Yeah, it was their lifespan
is like 9 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 months.
Their life is 9 months, which is kind of funny if you think about it, what it takes us 9 months to create a human. They have their own. Yeah.
I love that too. I love some of the conceits of that. Is like, he's like you're in charge here. He's like, you don't understand. Like, within a few generations, they won't remember how I even became in charge. It's just, I'll be part of the mythology at this point,
Which is him too. So like Viltrumite, just his lifespan compared to theirs is crazy.
It's opposite ends of the spectrum.
Very, very much. Yeah, very much so. But with that, the Thoraxins can learn stuff very quickly. They adapt very quickly too, and this is all they know. So this is just their lifespan to them. And with that too, you find out that Nolan's gotten a little busy, and he has given Mark a half brother, Oliver. So at the time, his name's not Oliver, but he becomes Oliver. Yeah.
Of course, can't be a superhero book without superheroing happening, or at least fighting happening. And who should arrive?
Right. The Viltrumites. The actual Viltrumites come because they hear that Nolan, who had abandoned his post, which is unheard of in Viltrumite society. That was like the big thing that Alan was going to the coalition of planets to say. It's like, wait, like a Viltrumite left his post?
Yeah.
That's unheard of. That's crazy. That's a crack in their armor.
Yeah.
So and of course the Viltrumites want to stop that, or just see what happened, or basically punish Nolan. So they go to Thoraxin, and that's why Nolan had sent out for Mark to go to that planet, is to help him, because he knew it was coming. So they have this huge fight, which was cool
Yeah, it's a great
to
fight,
see
and
the
like,
brutality of how other Viltrumites are.
well, that's the thing, is like, this is again what steps it apart from other superhero books. You know, for the most part, anything with Superman or Spider-Man, it's all sanitized very much. Like, you don't see too much real violence. Yeah, people get punched through walls, and you'll see a little blood coming down the Spider-Man's lip or whatever. This is like brains getting punched. It's like you got hit. If your fist, if you know, hits you with like something that's speeding, like a fist hits you with something that's speeding as fast as a bullet, your head would explode, and that's what you see. You see stuff to that effect. It is straight up violent, hyper violent, and for good reason. It's just, you know, it's again what sets it apart from the other superhero books. You know, the
It
closest
gives it
I
a
can,
reality.
yeah, the closest I can, like, you know, like any kind of, the closest is like any of like some of the adult stuff that, you know, like the boys or maybe the Authority or something like that is like the closest I would say that you're going to see that kind of. It's just, it's done with some bright, happy colors. It's like, it would be like
It's true,
reading a
yeah.
superhero book, and all of a sudden, like, oh God, Superman just like punched that dude's face through a wall, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Or it just ripped his face off.
it just took a spine out, no problem, you know?
Right. Like with the one Viltrumite who had his guts all taken out, breaks Nolan's back.
Yes.
So, and that's where Nolan gets captured by the Viltrumites too, which is also crazy. So,
but he is able to protect his son Oliver. You know, that was the thing.
That was the main thing.
Yeah, I was able to protect his son, because if they had known Oliver existed, they would have killed him like that, no problem.
Yes, which they're all for purity as well. Like, you have to, if you are, if you're having babies as a Viltrumite, it has to be compatible, I guess, or mostly compatible. So the Thoraxans were not, because Oliver's like pink or purple, skinned and everything. Oliver's mom, she's like, I'm gonna be dead before he even knows me.
2 weeks, man.
Yeah,
he's still a baby,
right? Because this is after Mark is recovered from this huge battle. Because Mark was not ready for this fight. Let's just say, and so Mark takes it upon himself to take Oliver with him home, and basically Debbie is distraught that Mark had seen Nolan and talked with him and stuff, but now brought a baby to this house. But Oliver eventually,
her ex-husband's baby,
ex-husband. Eventually she gets, she takes him in and adopts him.
I thought it was really cool on her part to, like, it's like, what did you think I was going to do? Abandon him? He's a kid. Of course he knew I was going to fall in love with him within like 30 minutes of meeting him.
Right, and it starts the shift of her character as well. She breaks out of her depression. I think she realized that's something that she needed as well.
This is a stupid question. I don't watch the show. Where is the show in relation to what we've read so far? Has this been covered in the show, or are they still like?
This is what I was going to say too. Like, the Compendium goes up until about the beginning of this newest season. So if
this is all covered already.
This is already covered. Yes, we've gone this far. I think it's the Compendium stops about almost right at the beginning of season 3. The first couple episodes have that the multi-Paul, the initial multi-Paul fight at the Capitol, or the fight master and whatever guy trying to steal the Declaration of Independence and stuff. Yeah. That's like that's towards the end of this Compendium, but it's in the beginning of season 3.
Well, then that actually brings up a really interesting question. In the next trade, it's 31 through 35 plus like a standalone issue called like the Pact. It's called Three's Company. There's also basically the big thing here is, because I really want to get to this. This is really interesting to me. So basically Mark takes Amber and they go check out what Adam Eve's been up to in Africa. She's been building houses and planning stuff. And, you can tell that Adam Eve was like interested in Mark and was kind of a little upset that Amber shows up with him. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So that's a progression of the characters right there. You get the introduction of Shapesmith, who's essentially John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, is an idiot. But then Angstrom Levy returns, the multidimensional leader, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, huge brain. He's really deformed from the accident, but also the way that he comes, it's just, Mark gets a call from his mom, but it's actually Angstrom Levy. It's like, hey, come home.
Yeah.
And then, that starts this huge fight with Angstrom Levy. and multiversal fight. Excuse me.
Yeah, because like you get now, what I'm trying to get to is that basically in this book, yeah, or in this story, he fights Angstrom Levy, and Angstrom Levy just starts popping him through dimensions, left and right, and like he wakes up and it's like, oh, there's a guy there, and it's clearly Batman. You know, you can't say it's Batman, but it's clearly Batman. You know, it's like all you see is the glove and the little spice coming out of the glove. He's like, really, you're gonna name yourself after a bat, you know? But there's also a nice little shot of like you see a web shooter go by, and clearly Doc Ock's one of Dr. Ock's tentacles. Now, this is what I love. This issue isn't collected, but so Mark gets thrown through one of these dimensional portals, and he ends up in the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he meets Spider-Man and the Avengers.
Legitimately, that is because in Marvel Comics, like I said, Robert Kirkman was writing Marvel Team Up at the time. Really went like 20 or 30 issues or so. But Invincible pops out. Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock, and Invincible's like, yo, I can help you. And they go out. They said they meet the Avengers. You know, Invincible cracks a few jokes about Spider-Man's name. And then he's like, let me guess. Like, you're Flagman. Because he meets the Avengers. Like, you're Flagman, and you're Clawman. And yeah, so location, you're Black Man. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, it was cool because like canonically, you know, Invincible was there, and then he gets sucked back out, and then like I said, you know, he runs into Batman. Although they can't call it Batman. Like, good luck finding that issue. It's super rare. It's Marvel Team Up number 14. I think it's around 2006 or 2007, somewhere around there. The issue takes place shortly around issue 33 of the actual Invincible run. It was collected once in a Marvel Team Up trade that they put out around that time, but both the Team Up trade and the issue itself are pretty rare finds. So I have like an issue of it somewhere. It was the only reason I was able to like dig this out and kind of re-look it up. I was like, this is fun. I forgot about this. But
and if you want to read it though too, it might be on Marvel Unlimited. I'll have to double check them, but at least
be careful. Maybe just because of that, they made the Invincible crossover at all. That's why it's like, you know, it's a little bit rough to find. It's kind of like that Aliens thing we dealt with a couple weeks ago with
Goodness. The Authority.
Stormwatch. Yeah, Stormwatch. Yeah, like, you know, it's like it's a third party IP. It's really hard to reprint that stuff, but it's still fun. It's Corey Walker did the issue, so the original Invincible artist did the art for it. It's a fun issue. It's really fun. What I was going to ask though, and I do know the answer, but I want to hear your take on it. How or did they adapt that for the TV show?
Oh, they did. It was like a quick scene. It was just like, it was a Spider-Man like guy fighting a, not really octopus, but like a squid looking guy. Like the Spider-Man kind of looked like a different type of Spider-Man or whatever, and he was cracking jokes and stuff, which was great. But then the Doc Ock analog, all his tentacles were outside of like this helmet. It was like this huge like squid looking helmet, and then they had the tentacles come out there. So it was very quick, but it was a good. It was like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
So
legally different enough. Legally different enough, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, but eventually, anyway. Sorry.
No, that was the big thing too, with Angstrom Levy going through all the multiverse, and then that just ends up with Mark killing him, and that was a big turning point for Mark as well, because this is something he hasn't done, and he didn't necessarily mean to do. It's just he was given no choice.
It is interesting. I like, you know, this is kind of a theme in comics. Like when you're given a character, like you put a character into a corner, it's like, how do they get out of that corner? And sometimes you have to make the hard call or the hard decision. And nothing drives me crazier than when like you do that to a character. It's like the only choice is like you have to kill them or not, you know, and then they just weasel their way out of it. And it's like, oh, that sucks. A really good example of that is in X-Men comics, the Dark Knight or the Dark Phoenix saga, when the Phoenix originally in that story, you know, Jean Grey, when the X-Men are fighting for, you know, like they're like, oh, well, the original story Chris Claremont, John Byrne was going to do was that they were just going to mind wipe her and like, oh, it's all good. She's okay. Even though she killed 8 billion people on a planet. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh, we'll just mind wipe her. And like, Jim Shooter, who's the EIC, the editor in chief, he was like, that's not going to cut it. She just killed 8 billion people. You need to kill her. And like, we're not going to kill her. And it was like, why not? She did this horrible thing. She needs to die. And like, Claremont and Byrne were completely against it, and they were fine. We're going to do it just to prove you wrong. It became one of the most monumental decisions that ever happened. Repercussions, ramifications. Fans were shocked. I'm not reading this book ever again. But it's like, that was the right call. That was the absolute right call. And in the same thing with Angstrom Levy, I hate to say, it was like, it is the absolute right call. He had no other choice.
He also didn't mean to, like, too.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought you were stronger.
Yeah.
The
But
end
it
of
was
that.
like, what's he gonna do? Like laser something into his head and like, or drop him off? It's like, yeah, it would have been a cop out. It would have been a real cop out. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me.
No, Angstrom Levy is somebody who was not going to stop.
No.
So it all had to happen, and it's a big turning point for him where he kind of just starts to rethink what is he doing and how is he as a superhero. And he has like a big I think this is when he has a big heart to heart with no, I'm sorry, yeah, a big heart to heart with art.
The guy who designs the costumes.
Yeah, because at that time, like, Art is the only person that has been affected by the Omni-Man twist as much as Debbie and Mark, because he was a good friend with him. Yeah. So, it was just like he lost his friend and he lost his, his confidant. Yeah. So, when he was talking to him, he was talking to Art. He's like, when Nolan was being captured, he said, "Read my books," and he's like, "What if travel books are going to do?"
Yeah, so in case we kind of skipped over this, but Nolan, his Clark Kent identity is a travel he's a travel writer, and he writes books to make money officially for the family. When he gets captured by his people, and when Mark is losing interactions, the last thing he says to Mark is like, "Read my books," and like Mark's like, "You're a travel writer. What are you talking about?" And that's where you find what you were just mentioning.
Oh yeah, you find out that he actually wrote these other books before his big travel writing, and then
bad sci-fi books.
Yeah, these seemingly bad sci-fi, but these were all stories that actually he went through in his life, and it's kind of like a playbook in a way of how to defeat Viltrumites.
Mark's trying to read him and trying to understand him. Alan the alien will, of course, get his hands on these as well, and it adds to more of the how can we take these idiots down?
Yeah, and because at the time it's a coalition of planets versus the Viltrumite Empire. The Viltrumite Empire, and again, it's like we're saying, it's Kryptonians on a fascist for Kryptonians trying to take over the universe. So, and it's seemingly unstoppable, but this is just playbook of just how
they could be stopped potentially.
So it was just really good. And then moving on to My Favorite Martian, which is issues 36 to 41. D.A. Sinclair returns, but he comes back with improved reanimin. Yeah, I guess he was using dead bodies before, and now he's using live bodies, and he captures Rick and William, Rick Sheridan and William, and Rick becomes a reanimin, and that's just a huge moment with him and trying to get back from that, and just the implications.
Yeah, and William was bait, if I recall right. Like he was bait so they could try and find him,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
And that's also when you get, I think it's introduction to the white room. I was before, but it's like the trope of the white room where there's fluoride in the water that can only makes everybody not be able to see this other spectrum of light. So
it's basically a government room where they can run experiments, and you can only see what they want you to see in this room. Yeah, which kind of plays into this little bit more of the sinister nature of Cecil. You know what I mean?
Right. Some of that starts to creep in of just. Yeah. Cecil is for the absolute protection of the planet. It doesn't matter who or what, it gets in the way.
Yes.
And with that, though, as well, they learned that Shapesmith he left the astronaut that he was seemingly taking the shape of back in Mars, and that Mars is they call it a solid. So those cephalopods take over him, and he kind of starts to take over the planet.
He does take over the planet.
He does play everything, and then. So they have to go back to Mars to help save the astronaut and also the Martian people. That's some of that team. And then the rest of the team have to stop a huge attack from the Lizard League, which is,
Society?
Serpent Society. Yeah. No, but it's the Lizard League.
Lizard League, sorry.
And that fight ends up being way more brutal and way more impactful than you originally would think it should have been. Like, they kick the crap out of the remaining people because mostly that's all the heavy hitters are going out to Mars because their skin's unbreakable. They're and
that's like so the leftovers like Rexplode and Duplicate gets wrecked.
Seemingly it's killed.
Yeah.
As far as we know, she's dead.
Yeah, Rexplode loses his arm. Yeah, which he comes out ahead at the end of it and all that. But yeah,
it was just a brutal attack, which it kind of was just made. It's one of those like makes you like, okay,
yeah, this is This isn't Marvel Comics, guys. The other big moment there is like, I think the pressure of being a superhero is just too much for Mark and Amber, and that leads to their eventual breakup.
Their
Is that correct?
eventual breakup. Yes, that is their eventual breakup with. Which I was fine with, honestly. They were alluding to a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say they telegraphed this out, like, oh, she's hanging out with another guy, and her girlfriends hate Mark, and he's never there, and he'd obviously be so much better with Adam Eve, who likes him. Because that's the other thing is you find out and you find out a future version of her. She says, "Hey, I've been in love with you, and you need to you need to do something about it. Either tell my younger self that you don't love me or that you do, but either way, like, you need to resolve this." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and Amber starts to kind of get a little bit like towards the, I don't want to say annoying, but it's just kind of like,
yeah, she wasn't written well at the end there. To be honest,
yeah, it's just kind of like the whole.
It was like it's kind of written to be like, okay, clearly they need to break up. Clearly they need to move on. It was like, okay, we get it. Like, oh, let's get, I mean, like, and I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but it was pretty on the nose. It was pretty on the nose, and it's like, okay, it happens, great, cool. Let's keep going. Let's get him and Adam and Eve together. Here we go. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's just start that. It's like we all know it's eventually going to happen, so let's just get it going.
Yeah.
And then the last trade of this compendium is issues 42 through 47. It's called Out of This World, and it first starts with kind of a heart to heart with Alan and Mark. We find that Alan did not die, which is great. He actually got a little bit stronger as well.
Badass now.
Yeah. He's like, you got bigger since the last time I saw you. And
he's bulky boy.
Yeah, and so they both kind of tell each other what's going on. That's where Alan gets all the books to help with, because he gives the context. Like, this is real stuff, like they were talking about. And then with that, Debbie's seemingly better. So then Mark goes out to like have a lunch with her, and then all of a sudden, a Viltrumite woman, Anissa, just shows up and it's like, come with me or I'm going to kill your mom and everybody here.
Isn't that where she's like, you have 500 years to get this shit in order or we're going to fuck you up?
Yeah, you have, your dad left his post. Now you have 100 years or to do his job, or else we're going to kill everybody.
Yeah, no problem.
And Cecil, is hearing this whole thing and stuff, and they fight this big monster on a cruise just to show how she isn't, there to kill anybody or do anything.
Yeah.
So that was, but she also becomes a huge, bigger part in the story.
Yeah, I've seen that she's like, the fact that her first appearance goes for a pretty penny. I'm like, oh yeah, that means like she's obviously an important character to the story.
Yeah, both in just the story of Invincible, but also the development of Mark. So she's not a great person. I know, shocking. I know.
What? The fascist aliens aren't
good right?
people?
I know, right? It's weird, huh?
What?
And speaking of Anissa, she is actually one of the people that captures Alan the alien. But Alan, this is a good moment for Alan because he gets punched by her. And he's like, wait, I'm not dead or anything. It didn't hurt that much. And he gets captured on purpose.
Yeah, he's like, I'll just go with it and get some pump for information.
Right, exactly. He pumps for information, and then he's like, he realizes that this is the same prison that Nolan's going to be in. So that's what he wants to.
Yeah, and Nolan at this point, he's getting healed because part of their society is you can't face your sentence unless you are fully healed. Basically, you have to give the right to fight your way out of it or whatever, right?
You don't get to fight your way out of it. You have to be at full health to be executed.
Yeah,
like it's kind of like an honor thing.
Yeah.
So you have to be at full strength, and so they just they're nursing him back and training him back and stuff, and you have that moment where he just I think I miss my wife.
Yeah,
which
which
you think about in the no, but if in the scheme of Viltrumites, that is humongous.
Yeah,
Nolan is the very much exception to all Viltrumites, and I think it's because of Debbie and Mark.
Well, it's the Earth influence. It's like, why is Earth always like the focal point of all this? There's something special about being human that other people just don't get. That's why all this shit happens, whether it's the Marvel universe or the DC universe. There's something special about being human. It's the idea behind it, at least. Yeah, and
it's just like you said, it's a constant that I like though too. It's weird how Earth writers talk about how Earth is so special.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it?
Another who'da thunk it. Then with that though too, after that we get introduced to not only Multipole, who's the brother of Duplicate. I like the name puns. It was great. We're also introduced to the Order, and it's funny how much of the story is like the superheroes and stuff, but you get reminded of the bad guys, and you have this whole underground, like Kingpin-ish, the order of these bad guys and stuff with Machine Head and Titan and things like that, which is great moments. And then you have Mark kind of think he's going to fight his way fine with it, and then he gets absolutely wrecked. I think this is the introduction of Battle Beast. It's right here, too.
Which they are bringing that back as a series, which I'm not sure if that's just like trying to strike while the Invincible Iron's hot or what, but yeah, they're going to be bringing back Battle Beast as a
it's like a prequel series.
Yeah, like it's like an in between. I think it's supposed to take place between issues like 19 and 55 or something like that. It's where it's set. It reminds me. It's gonna sound really stupid, but did you ever read the book Lone Wolf and Cub?
No, I know about it.
Okay,
I
so
know the Frank Miller is like Frank Miller, right?
He did know. Frank Miller did the covers for it. But it's it's an old manga from like the 70s and the 80s. But it's about about Daigoro, and it's about the samurai who has a Ronin rather, who has a little baby and baby card assassin. Anyway, in the book there was like at one point they fight this other samurai called the Samurai Executioner. It does not go well for him because of course the main character is Lone Wolf and Cub. But they then went back and like did the story of Samurai Executioner up to the point where he had that fight with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great. All that stuff. If you ever get a chance, like, oh man, we got to.
I will. Yeah, it's on my list.
It's.
I've heard of the story and everything. Yeah.
But it's
on my
the
list.
same thing. Like it's like there's this other character that runs into them, but this is kind of giving it.
The last look that we get though is really the Waller of Cecil, where we see government issued reanimate, and this is after D.A. Sinclair had killed people and had done this whole thing. Now he's working for the government. He's using a villain as an asset. So that was a good last
page of the
teaser
book kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean that was a long / quick back and forth of how the first compendium is. So overall,
we skipped a lot. There's the whole thing with Monster Girl, and there's Robot. There's a whole thing with them.
A whole big thing with Robot. Yeah, that we just didn't talk about where Robot's not really a robot.
Yeah, there's a whole thing with Immortal and Duplicate. That's a big deal as well. There's a lot that we kind of skipped over, but it's like, do yourself a pleasure. I mean, I guess here's the bigger thing. So we read through 47, 48, 50 issues or so. What is your take on this? For like, what do you give like these first 50 issues? Don't worry about Compendium 2, 3, the TV series.
Right.
What do you think of this? Like this compendium as like a recommendation. What do you think?
I totally would recommend this to anybody who's even just into superhero comics. Like this is a fun, different type of storyline that it subverts a lot of the tropes of the comics or just this typical superhero stories, but also doesn't it's a good mix of both in a sense of in enough where you think where something's going to go, and then it completely changes on you.
Okay.
And I like the little Easter eggs. I like the storylines. I like the characters. The dialogue is also fun. There's a lot of good jokes within it too. And the art is great. So yeah, I think it's definitely something to. It's not a hard read, and it's a fun book just to keep going with. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like I do like that it's all self-contained. You don't need to read 50 other issues of Fantastic Four and 20 issues of Spider-Man and all that to kind of know the world or whatever. It's like, it's built on the back of those though. It's built on the tropes of that. I think it helps to have like background knowledge about general superheroes before you go into that. Because if not, you'll miss a lot of the nuance that kind of happens. Yes, there's a lot of Easter eggs that if you're a fan of this, you'll kind of catch and laugh and enjoy. But if you're not, you're like, okay, that was a thing that happened. And it's not integral to know it, but it helps. It does help the book a lot to know like the conventions of Superman, the conventions of Spider-Man, that kind of stuff. What are those tropes that happen and like how does he subvert and change those and do differently? I think as like a first like 50 issues, it's a read, but it's worth it. Like especially if you get the compendium, because you can pick those up used for like $20-$30. You can probably get it on Amazon because I know they want to push Invincible anyway. Probably pick up that first trade for that first compendium and it's a read. Like it's a read. Like it took me, and I've read this. It took me a couple weeks to get through the whole damn thing, just with everything else I had going on. Um, I'd give it like
Yeah.
a yeah, I'd give it like a B plus though. To be honest, like I don't think it's like the best thing ever, but it's a good distraction. It's a lot of fun in that regard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, just as a fan, I think I'm looking through this through rose-colored glasses, but I would give it an A,
Okay.
because there's not a lot of times where I'm surprised
Yeah.
in books like that,
Yeah.
like I was with the Nolan
Yeah.
twist or the fight between Nolan and Mark. So I give it a solid A.
That's totally fine. And I see exactly why you did. I kind of tend to reserve A's for like this is a game changer of a book. I do think it's very good. I think it's very enjoyable. I just don't know if it's like it was that much of a game changer for me. Like I said, like I think it's something like, for lack of a better word, like Batman Year One or like Marvels or Kingdom Come. Like those are like that's a material. Like you that
Generational
needs,
changing.
yeah, it's like that needs to be on your bookshelf, like kind of thing. This is one of those ones where like, it's like buy the Compendium. The Compendium is a perfect way to read this. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a Bible of comics. I do think it's like a B plus though. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like I think it's like it teeters on that edge. I don't think it's must read, but I think if you're a comic book fan, you'll love it. Or rather a superhero fan. If you're a fan of superheroes, you'll love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And also with the Compendium, though, if you have Comixology, most of it's on Comixology Unlimited. So it's already part of your subscription, which is good.
Well, and that's the other thing. It's like, we kind of joked about it in like one of our first episodes. Is this like a stream, a buy, or a rent? Do you stream it like via like, Comixology? Do you buy the hardcover, which is like all the special features or something like that? Or do you just get like the DVD box set or whatever? I have three of the first three hardcovers, the giant ones, the absolute editions that has all the the interviews with Kirkman and all that kind of stuff. And I keep them because it's fun to read this stuff. The fights are brutal and graphic. But when I want to just sit down and read, I think I get the Compendium. And that's what I recommend everybody. Just get the Compendium. I don't think you need to get all the hardcovers or supplemental stuff.
Totally. And if you don't like reading, you should definitely check out the TV show, because the TV show, the cartoon is really, I think it's a really good adaptation, because it's not necessarily word for word or, it has all the same storylines, but this is where Kirkman was able to do his way of a do-over in a sense, where he's like, I want to expand a little bit on this. I want to expand a little bit on that. I want to change it, because Amber is way better, way different. So is William. William's not annoying in the TV show. The timings is different. So his whole fight with, Battle Beast and everything with the Machine, that's still before he learns about Omni-Man and Nolan. Like, he expands the mystery of everybody trying to figure out what happened to the Guardians of the Globe. Like we know as the viewer that reader. Nolan did, because you see like the fight too, like all the fights on there are super brutal and super like choreographed well. You get more of an introduction to the Muller twins, to the Guardians as well, and then the mystery of Omni-Man trying to hide that he did kill the Guardians is more expanded upon. I think they had that one character that was kind of like the question mixed with Hellboy. In the book, where he was just shows up as like, I know who killed the Guardians.
Right. It was like Mr. Occult or something like that.
Exactly. And he's like, I know who killed the Guardians. Like, yeah, we figured that out last month. He's like, oh, okay. His character's actually taken seriously, and he's actually trying to figure out who it is and stuff. And that's more. I love. There's another part where the Flaxen invasions, that three of them are done in one episode, and the last one, Nolan. You see what happens when Nolan goes into the dimension, and he basically just destroys their planet, and he just says like, Earth is not yours to conquer, and then he threatens them to send him back, and he just drops like this whole mountain on the science thing. I'll send you the clip of it. It's the animations. And the animation is a little bit iffy towards the beginning, but they get better, and it gets more detailed, and you can see they find their legs and everything. And so it's definitely worth watching, even if you're a big fan of the Invincible book and you've read the book. It's definitely a good expansion on it. The voice acting is top notch as well.
I'll say the talent is good, like J.K. Simmons and Steven Yeun and stuff like that.
And Sandra Oh, Walton Goggins is in it as Cecil, who's perfect as Cecil.
Love the Gogs.
He's like in everything right now.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. There's a reason.
And it's just a great TV show. It's a great cartoon. It's the third season's going on right now. Okay. And Seth Rogen is Alan Alien, which is great too.
He's producing. He's a producer on it though too.
Yes, he is. Yeah. So I mean, the voices are so good. When I was rereading it, their voices were in my head when I was reading it.
Great. That's great. Awesome. Well, you may have sold me on the show. I'll have to maybe check it out.
Yeah, again, it's even if like you just read, the whole compendium.
Yeah.
When you're going through the show, you're like, oh, they did that different. Like they made, William is gay in the show, and he's just a better character. He's not really like a tag along character or an annoying character.
A little more agency or whatever.
Yeah, and Amber is more mature in the show. Yeah. And I mean, Rick Splode is still an asshole. It's great. It's a good. It's very good. I do recommend the show as much as the book so far, especially now. Like they are getting to they just did this last episode, which was really great. Yes. I don't want to spoil it for people who are reading the book currently and getting to the show, but and then they just introduced this next episode, and I think this week this certain episode comes out, which is a huge part of the book as well. This is the part where Kirkman gets really cooking. Like it doesn't let's just say he doesn't give Mark a chance to breathe.
Okay. Well, that's your kind of book then.
Exactly.
That's your kind
of
story.
It's like one thing after another. Okay. Like literally he is cleaning up from one disaster and something else happens as he's just realizing and cleaning up from this one disaster, which is a huge other disaster.
Okay. For fans of Invincible that are looking for books that are of a similar ilk, is there anything you'd recommend?
I mean, because it's Robert Kirkman, we're going to have to say Walking Dead.
Absolutely.
I think you've already mentioned Ultimate Spider-Man. I think that's because you have that whole artist and creator team throughout most of the book.
Yeah. Bendis wrote almost every single issue. Higley and Stuart Immonen.
Yeah.
The thing that's like, I think the other reason I think you recommend is Kirkman cites that as one of the things, like at the time there was only one other teenager superhero book, and it was Ultimate Spider-Man. So it's like they kind of ran, I don't say concurrently, but there was a lot of parallels between the two, and like you said, like there's like 150 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. So consistency of character.
Yeah, and consistency of writing, which is great.
Well, I do think that honestly that is one of Bendis's. I know we kind of talk shit about Bendis every once in a while, but like honestly, Ultimate Spider-Man is when he was cooking on that book. He really was. He really was. It's a great book, and I can't recommend it enough.
And then another one is The Boys, and just saying that because of the brutality and also the subverting the tropes of superheroes. It's definitely not. It's not on the same level as The Boys in the case of edginess and what's the best way? Crudeness.
Yeah. I do maintain that I think the show is better than the book. I think the book, once the book gets kind of some of that shit out of its system, it's like, it's a good book, but man, the first arcs are kind of just like, oh, come on.
A little bit too much.
Yeah, it's like, I like Garth Ennis a lot, but when he's like being like, look at me, potty humor, it's like, God damn it, dude. Like, you're a good writer. You don't need to rely on that, Like, you don't need to rely on that, pal. But anyway, I digress.
Let's do final thoughts.
Oh, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
I thought, I enjoyed it. I'm scared to read Compendium 2 just because that's where I dropped off. And I'm afraid if I start reading Compendium 2, it's going to pick up. Basically, I'm going to read half of it, like, okay, I've read this, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God. And then I have to go read Compendium 3 right afterwards, which is going to suck. It's going to eat up my time for a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think you're going to want to read, if you start with Compendium 2, you're going to want to read the whole thing. It starts to cook with gas and a lot more Viltrumite stuff, which is great.
Cool. What about you?
Yeah, and I've loved this book for a long time. I recommend it to a lot of people. I just think it's a great, fun read, and it's a great, fun superhero story.
Nice.
So with that, though, when we aren't reading 47 issues of a book or having life go on. What
New
other stuff
dogs and
is on your stack?
kids and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
goodness.
Yeah. The book that I really, really liked recently, and it might be a month or two old, but I happened to pick up the first issue, is a book called When I Lay My Vengeance Upon Thee. Obviously, that's kind of a reference to the Bible and or Pulp Fiction, but it's essentially just like an exorcism book. It's really, really good. The art is moody. The story is really fun. It's just like a exorcism book, which is the comic book. But the book I'm reading right now is called Slugfest, and it's the 50-year history of the rivalry between DC and Marvel Comics, and how they were constantly trying to one up each other, or like DC being like, those guys, that Stan Lee guy, Jack Kirby, they don't know what the hell they're doing, and meanwhile, like Marvel's just killing them when it comes to sales, and they're like, oh crap, we need to like. And so it's like just that history of the rivalry between the two companies. It's really fun so far.
Oh, that really does sound fun.
What's that?
What? That does sound really good. Really fun. I'll have to check that out.
I actually, I'll let you borrow my copy like after I'm done. I checked it out from the library, and I was like, I'm not going to finish this like in the time, so I just like sent it back, and like I found like a used copy on Amazon for like $5. I'm like, yeah, that's
nice.
Yeah.
Well, what I've been reading though is Marvel is doing these new, like, speaking of like team ups, they're doing these new type of team up books. I think JMS is he's doing the main writer, and he has like different artists, but they're doing these crazy kind of partnerships with the first
like that you would never see.
No, like the first issue was Rocket and Doctor Doom, and
it's a good issue. It's a good issue.
He was really good, and then the Captain America and Volstagg, and then the new one that came out this month. This month is Nick Fury. This week, is Nick Fury and Fing Fang Foom, and that was like an old school kind of old, almost like think of it as like Kong Skull Island a little bit, and there's just really fun issues, really fun partnerships that you see.
The Volstagg one I thought I wasn't going to enjoy, but when Volstagg tells Captain America his like origin behind the Warriors 3, I was like, that's more character I've seen for that cat than I've seen anywhere else. And it was like 1 to 2 pages. I was like, that was good. You could literally throw the rest of the book out, and just having that 2-page like as a backup would have been better than most people's writing in a year. Like it was, I mean, at least for me, like I was like, that was really good characterization right there. You exactly get why Volstagg is the way he is, and how he actually is a hero because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it could be used as a soft pilot for a Volstagg
series
book. I would totally read a Volstagg series with JMS writing him, and when Captain America is kind of like the side character of it, that's when you know how good the characterization of Volstagg is.
I'm sorry, not to be mean, but it's like Volstagg is this big dude who eats a lot, and that's what he's known for, cracking jokes and like kind of like falling into adventure, and like somehow his like ineptitude like saves the day sometimes. But it's like when you read it, like why, it was like, oh, this makes sense, and that's really cool. I appreciated that. Right, that's all.
And I just like the different mashups too. So
the art's top notch on both books so far. I haven't read the Fin Fang Foom one yet, but I have it on my stack. But yeah,
it's good. Well, and that's what we're reading. And thanks everybody for listening to this very long episode. We hit a long episode on this one because we had to. There's a lot of issues. Yeah. So we had to. But thank you again for your continued support. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit us up on Instagram on We Got Issues Cast, and on Blue Sky We Got Issues. And I think Brian, you're on Blue Sky as
I'm on the BComp, the BComp. You can find me there and like harass me. Please feel free. I'm telling you, we will, if you hit us up, if you DM us, or even just, hey, do this book. I'm sure there's a strong chance we'll get to it.
Look, we don't want to plan or produce this. We want you guys to do that for us. So please help us, help you, help us.
Well, and on that note, what are we doing next week, baby? Not next week, but next episode.
Next episode, we're going to actually talk about Batman Year 1 and Year 2, which are pentultimate, or not pentultimate, ultimate, just ultimate stories that you need to read for Batman.
Yeah, recently DC has kind of taken the... we'll probably talk about this in the episode, but DC is taking a cue from Marvel, who does these epic collections that are these like huge collections of like 20 or 25 issues of like a run. DC is finally doing them now. I think they're called DC's Finest or something to that effect, and they've collected like basically the Batman comics post Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's right up to about Batman Year 2. So it's fun, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Should be fun.
Yeah.
It's all about, and with that. Not to say, not 20. That's only 25 issues as opposed to 50.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, that's not too bad. Half the reading time, so that's great. And then please please when you listen to this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and recommend it to your friends. We want more listeners and we want more earballs on this one because this is something we like to do. This is a lot. We have a lot of fun doing this. We've been talking about it for a long time. We just want people to have fun with us, join the conversation in the back of that comic book shop that we talk about. So please, like Brian said, reach out to us. Recommendations, reviews, thanks, bad jokes, anything you want, please.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, awesome. So with that, though, we will see you next episode.
Peace.